Hi everybody, welcome back to another Impact and Influence. Today we've got a repeat offender, the gorgeous Virginia, the founder and director of Resolver Recruitment. Hi Virginia, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm great.
I'm awesome. And you're coming to us from where today?
Exmouth in my office here. So I've moved into offices in Exmouth in Western Australia. So I've created a FIFO life where I fly back into Sydney to my business once a month, every fourth week. And then I spend 3 weeks here. So total life change.
How awesome. And it also shows what a business can do when you've got the right structure and the right people in place, right?
Absolutely.
So Virginia, we have spoken twice on Impact and Influence previously. I'm always very curious about what's going on in the recruitment space. I think everyone knows that we've got another little JV on the sideline that we're bubbling along, but really want to have a look today and dive deep on what you're seeing out there and with your experience is let candidate and employer know what's happening out there in the market and some handy hints, and with your wisdom to impart on us what we should be doing more of, less of, and probably getting out of the way of and letting those that are good at do. So what are you seeing out there at the moment, and what's the recruitment climate
Okay,
like?
so there is definitely a lot of room. There's a lot of movement at the moment. There are lots of candidates who are starting to make a move. People are starting to hire. People are talking about these redundancies that are being made. I've seen very little of it, especially in the New South Wales market or the Sydney market. Seen very, very little of it. Property management obviously still screaming out for good staff. The big thing I'm seeing at the moment is property managers just wanting to move for the cost of living, which I appreciate. But I also need people to think about, just because their cost of living has increased, a business owner, as you would know, the costs have increased significantly. So after COVID, the insurances have gone through the roof. Like, I think our insurance has pretty much doubled in the last 12 months with workers' comp and just business insurance and cyber insurance, and, you know, just everything still goes up 10% a year. So I think people need to be mindful that just because their cost of living has gone up, so have the cost of running businesses as well. So trying to move for an extra 5 or 10 grand without the experience, clients are now calling on that as well. So where you would have got that 15 grand before just to make the move, clients are also watching every penny at the moment as well. So the spendthrift, I think, of during COVID has gone. People are very mindful of how money's being spent. So I think that's a big one candidates need to watch, is you're not just going to get more money sometimes for going and doing the same job for a competitor. And it's just going to look crappy on your CV.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of that out there at the moment too. And I think we've really noticed, which I'm excited about, a shift in the KPIs or the incentives that are being offered are very much around retention of customer, growth in revenue, and things that sit outside the everyday. So in other words, your salary is what you do every day, and then the incentives that sit outside of that. Is there more or less?
And I think sometimes as well, you've got to do more to earn more too. You know, you can't just sit doing exactly the same thing and command more money. I think it's reverting a little bit back to what it was kind of 10 years ago, where to earn more, you got to do more. And so that's where sales, I think, is doing well, and where associates can do well as well now, is getting into that associate role and doing more to earn more. That's why you go into sales too. And property management as well, you know, come up with different ideas of how you can increase revenue in your portfolio.
And I think that's probably, you and I were talking about this a lot before we came online today, is around highest and best use within sales teams. What are you seeing out there with sales agents, recruiting, not recruiting, or what would you be encouraging them to do with what you're seeing as talent acquisition?
Well, sales agents, what we were saying, put on someone opposite to you. So my business wouldn't run without my EA ops, because that's not my strength. My strength is people, communication, and sourcing talent. I would be terrible at running the ops side of a business. It's not my strength. So I employ someone to do that, and I pay them well to do that. And I think that's what a lot of people need to do. You don't need 5 salespeople like you in your business unit if you don't have anyone holding it together. So I would say there's people out there now that are exploring sales again at the moment. So if you are the sales agent, you should be selling, you should be doing a lot of your own prospecting, because people know you, not your assistant, right? So, but then put people on that can help you do all your admin, all your marketing, even liaising with your vendors. A lot of the top agents that you look at, they've got very specific people in their business unit that one that just looks after their clients as well, and organising your opens, your floor planners, your stylists, your, anything that needs to happen there. So I think what needs to go back to now is a sales agent needs to be the front and centre of their business, and that includes prospecting. So then put the people on to do the rest.
So diversity of talent within an EBU, we're certainly seeing that. Surprising, 100%. Right? You're a sales agent, you do the callbacks. What happens? You get appraisals and you get leads.
Boom.
Yeah, I must say I've never seen so many associates out looking for work at the moment, but that business unit manager or really good EA admin is still a bit tight. Now, we were also talking about remote working. Last time I spoke to you, we were saying unless you're an employer and you're offering flexible working arrangements, you're not competitive. Is that the same, or have you seen a shift?
No, I've seen a shift. I've seen a definite shift to employers wanting people back in the office full time. We are pushing now to get some people a day a week to move, but the norm is that people think that they're losing culture, they're losing collaboration, they're losing relationships. And so I would say 90% of the roles that we are bringing in at the moment, you would not get more than 1 day work from home.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is a massive change. Massive
change from last time we were talking. The other thing we were talking about too, which I'm curious about, and I'm sure our listeners are, is the induction onboarding. Is how important is that to keep people or get them up to speed quicker?
Oh, it's super important. You can't, I'm still seeing this in the age-old property management thing where you find a property manager, they've been managing 150 properties, they just whack them in to manage 200 without the training, without the systems, without really getting to know how everybody works in that unit, and then it all falls apart within 3 months. So I think more than ever, you need to induct them into the team and into the business so they know where to go for help as well. And I think you can't just sit someone down on a seat in a brand new office from day dot and just tell them to get on with it. You can't. And I think that's where a lot of it fails. People need to learn systems, they need to learn processes, and they need to learn the people that they're working with. So there needs to be a good induction system, like get them training on the system straight away, book that in, even simple things, with people who don't even know where the toilet is on first day, like just walk them through. It doesn't need to be a big induction, and it can be a constant ongoing induction if you're in a smaller office as well, where you don't have that HR team. But it's the little things that go a long way.
I think it's true. And we always find at this time of the year is spring. If you've got a selling principal, they're very busy. And I think just that checking in, if you are the selling principal, don't assume that the induction onboarding's been done, but to check in on that and make sure that your people are feeling welcome, because it's so bloody expensive to hire them. And induction, I think someone said the other day, $25,000 to $38,000 or $40,000, depending on the size of the business, to hire, get them in, induct them, on board them, and the time on an hourly rate of your people to bring them up to speed. So
100%.
Don't get it wrong when you've got partners like Virginia that do such a great job in placing them. Let's try and retain them, because otherwise the disruption to the business is too high. Virginia,
and the other one thing that I've heard as well is people that really love where the director of the business, the CEO or the MD actually takes the time once a week just to check in with that person. It makes them feel important, and it also makes it feel like there's less of a hierarchy in an office as well when senior management are available and approachable. And I've had that come up about 3 times in the last week.
I think it's, you think about how hard you pursue candidates or talent to get them. And then you get them, you don't want them to have buyer's remorse. So spending time making sure they get that shot in the arm around the passion and the vision and why they're there is incredibly important. And it just so happens, Virginia, that if you go to my website, you can buy all the induction and onboarding collateral to ensure it's seamless. Virginia, I'm mindful and respectful of your time, but we're trying to keep these impact and influencers now to around 10 minutes. But just in going out, where are we going wrong as an industry, as an employer in the recruitment process? What can we do better?
I think what's coming up a lot for me at the moment is the cost of licensing and the cost of time for people to do the licensing courses. So
Yes.
We're actually losing quite a few people now because it's quite simply too expensive for them to renew licenses and certificates and do CPD training if they're on an average wage. I would say one thing, if an employer can look at it at the moment, to incorporate that as part of a perk and do joint CPD points, for you with recruitment, with employers with recruitment, Much cheaper to offer to pay half a licensing fee or half a certificate of registration, or even in full if it's someone that you admire and you want to keep in the business. But I think the perks now need to come from rather than work from home, which a lot of people don't want to do. I think the big thing is cost of licensing, time of licensing, CPD. That's all the stuff I think that needs to be looked at as a whole to make it part of a package or part of a business. I think that's a big one. I've seen a few people leaving just going, you know what, I just don't want to pay the license fee anymore. I'm a property manager and I don't need to pay that money. So that's a big one that I think needs to be looked at by employers at the moment. And I'd still say maybe that 1 day a week flexibility is really important to some people. And, you know, I think 4 days in an office is enough to build a culture, and that day from home can be a catch-up day. And I think that's a really good way to do it. Like my team have Fridays off. They all work from home. Well, they don't have Fridays off. They all work from home on a Friday. But then we've got that culture Monday to Thursday. So I think 1 day a week is important. Look at the cost of KPI, licensing and CPD within the business. Make sure the induction's right and you make people feel welcome from day dot. And then I think you can't put too many pressures on people at the moment either. Like cost of living is big, and it's something that I hear every single day from candidates and clients. So I think just that fairness as well.
Is that something you're seeing with the cost of living? Because you've mentioned it a couple of times now. Are people nervous about making a move?
100%, 150%. You know, and you only need to look at some of. I belong to a lot of the chat rooms on Inner West Mums and Northern Beaches Mums, and that is a constant post of the cost of living and worried about stability and security. And so I think if you've got a good team, you need to make them feel stable and secure as well, because people are nervous. People are really nervous, and the industry is no different.
And Virginia, just to close out, because you've got so much experience and you've seen what we do well and what we don't do well, what is a cracker question for a candidate to ask in an interview or an employer to ask of talent in an interview?
I think with talent, I think you sometimes need to make it more personal without crossing the line of personal. I always love to hear what hobbies or what interests, like what keeps them busy from Friday night to Sunday night. And I think then people appear a little bit more relaxed in an interview as well, because people are happy to talk about themselves but get nervous in a job capacity. And then, you know, it's not wrong to ask candidates either, you know. So what do you do with your family? Candidates to ask clients, what do you do in your family time? What do you do for fun? Because sometimes you find that alignment with people through your outside activities, not your inside. Yeah, totally. So I think it's probably the same question that doesn't get asked often enough for people to get to know each other in an interview, because we can all talk about what we do in a job.
So relatability, right? So
yeah.
Relatability, authenticity. So if there's things are important to you. And guys, I think it's about just when we go in, just like a listing presentation, right? I often say, and it sounds awful, you pitch for people like you pitch for property. So, you know, what's the personality of the person you're going for? But more importantly, naturally, inherently, what are the qualities, characteristics and skill sets that they need for the role? Because I think sometimes when we go, oh, we really liked them, she was a good person, or he was a good bloke, or and then we go with people that we like, and often that's not the right approach, is it?
You still need to be structured, right? So I think going into any interview, and I say this to clients and candidates, you need to have a list of your non-negotiables. And you know, if you've got a decent sized business, you know what you need for that job. So you still need to have very much task-based questions just to work out they can do the job. Give them a quiz. Give them a quiz just on a few simple laws, because that's going to tell them if you can do the job, and just put some scenarios in place of, you know, what happened if this happened, or tell me about the worst time where, you know, someone called and they were irate. What were they irate about and how did you handle that? There's very easy ways to find out how stressed people get and how much they know about the job. And that's just being a little bit prepared with just walk in with a sheet of paper into the interview and have your questions written down and just say to them, there's just some certain things I need to cross off. Can we just go through this and give me scenarios of this? And then you can work out if you like them and if you've got common denominator. But too many people go in with just their list as well and tick, 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 but then don't know anything about the person by the time they leave.
Very off-putting.
So you need to make sure you've covered both.
Yeah, and I think that's we can often be recruiting in desperation and not proactive with it. So always be recruiting, always have great relationships with people like Virginia, because she's got a finger on the pulse with talent out there in the market. Virginia, I could ask you a million different questions, but I'm mindful and respectful of your time. And also we'll just have to book another one to get through some more content for our listeners.
We will. It'll all change again by the middle of next year, I'm sure.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Virginia, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome anytime.
Bye-bye.
Bye.